This is a video on how to make the model of an atom, and this is the two-dimensional flat version, not the three-dimensional one. To do the project, you need a pair of scissors, a glue stick, and your envelope with materials in it. Inside the envelope, you should have a piece of paper, and this is the thin paper like you would get worksheets on, and then you should have a thicker paper, which is more like cardstock. It says at the top the heavier paper which should be used for this project. Now if you want to practice, or if you make a mistake and this one gets torn, then you can go ahead and use the lighter one, but it says at the top lighter paper for practice or if the heavy one is damaged. First thing we'll want to do is we want to cut the excess paper off and leave the black border. Try to do a neat job of this. Take longer than I'm taking so that it comes out pretty neat. So we're cutting the white off the outside of the border, leaving the black border on. The next thing we want to do is come down toward the bottom of this card, and I don't know if you can tell it or not on the video, there's a very light line. It's a dashed line here and one here. You want to put your first initial with a period behind it and then your last name. A lot of times for demonstrations I'll use the name John Doe. So if that were the name, I'd be putting a J with a period behind it and then D-O-E. Now the reason the lines are there is we should be filling the space between the lines. Let me see if I can get it. So the top of these letters, the D and the O and the E, should be on the top dashed line, and the bottom of the letters should be on the bottom dashed line. This is kind of like early elementary school when you first learn to make your letters. You're supposed to put them between the lines. That's what we're doing here. The next step is we want to put the atomic number at the top, and we want to write the name of the element that we're going to make. I had you pick up 12 dots of different colors. So on our chart here, the periodic table of elements, 12 is magnesium. So 1, 2, 12, that's the number we're going to put at the top. And then we can look here for the spelling of magnesium. So very slowly and neatly, you're going to fill in these letters. Now there's a dashed line here and a solid line. So we're going to put the 12 on that spot. And then below that, there's another dashed line and a solid line, and we're going to write magnesium. Try to do a really good job of this because these are probably going to be displayed. Okay, so magnesium. And then we're going to be putting 12 protons in the middle because our atomic number is 12. We're going to need to use several of these shells. The first shell we learned in class, you can put 2 electrons on. So I'll just make a little dot here for those two dots. On the next shell, we'll be putting 8. And usually we'll put the electron right next to the ones on the first shell. And there's going to be a total of 8. So let's go all the way here to the top of that shell. This is shell 2. Put a dot at the top and the bottom. That's 4 dots on that shell. Then we're going to go in between these dots and put another one. These dots are going to be where the electrons go. And so that adds up. That's 2 plus 8 on the second shell. That's 10. And our atomic number is 12. That means we're going to need to go to the third shell. We're allowed to put up to 18 electrons on that shell, but we only need 2 to add up to 12. So we're going to put 1 here and 1 here. Now all of these shells are very, very light. They're not supposed to show up very much from a distance. We want to darken only the ones that we're going to use. So we're not using shell 4, so we don't darken it. But we will darken these 3 shells. And I'm going to pause the video and then come back after I've got these darkened. I've darkened the 3 shells that I'm going to use, but not the 4th shell. We only need 2 colors of dots. Originally I told most of you to get 3 colors of dots, but I decided that putting so many dots in the nucleus to represent the protons and neutrons, there's really not room for that. So we're just going to stick with 2 colors. And it doesn't matter what color you use. I'm going to go ahead and use the green ones for the electrons. The electrons are the ones that go on the shells. You'll notice this paper. It's green, and if you flip it over, it's a lighter color of green. Flip them so you're using the same color all the way around. Don't use dark green and then light green, because that would be confusing. So I'm going to stick with just the light green. So I'd flip them over. And then you need to take a pen or a pencil, and you need to put a negative symbol on all the electrons. So if I'm going to use this as an electron, there's a little negative symbol, and we would be doing this on all 12 of the little electrons. And in my case, I'm using the light side. So if all the green ones are electrons and they have a negative charge, then the red ones, you're going to put a plus sign on those. Now we've got a dark side and a lighter side. It doesn't matter which side you use. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the darker side, and we're going to put a plus sign on every one of the protons. So you'll have 12 protons, 12 electrons. I now have a negative symbol on all the dots representing electrons, and we need to stick those onto the shells. So I'm going to use a glue stick. Some glue sticks work better than others. If you have the Elmer's glue stick, those seem to work pretty well. This is a brand I haven't even heard of before, but we'll check and see how it works. Everywhere that I've got a dot on these shells is where an electron goes, and we want this little negative symbol to run horizontally. So when we're holding it in this position, we want all the negative symbols to be going horizontally across. That way when we look at them, we know they're negative symbols. If these pop off, you just put some more glue on them and pop them on again. Usually with glue sticks, once it's dry, they stick on there pretty good. So we've got 12 dots on the shells, 2 on the small shell, 2 on the third shell, and 8 on that second shell. And I'm going to go ahead and stick all those in place. Also, we need to put all the red ones, in my case, the red ones that are protons, need to go in this shaded area in the middle. Now the shaded area, you can see on the video here, it's made up of these little dots. We shouldn't go outside that area. That's the nucleus. So we're going to glue them in place, and we want the little lines on the plus sign to run horizontal and vertical. In other words, straight up and down and straight across. We want them all to be in that direction. And because we're trying to fit 12 in this little space, some of them are going to overlap. So that's fine. I'm going to stop the video and then come back. We now have all the green ones. Those are the electrons. They all have the negative symbol. All the negative symbols are running horizontally. And we have all of the protons in place. Those have the plus symbol, and the plus symbols are running horizontally and vertically, and obviously they're overlapping. We have the black border all the way around the edge, no white on the outside. We have the atomic number, the element name, and then your first initial and last name at the bottom. Things that you might want to be careful of when you do this: wash your hands before you do it, because the glue on the glue stick, it's easy to have dirt from your hands come off onto the project. Also, find a place where little brothers and sisters or anybody, pets, will not bother this, because if you bump it, the little dots go all over the place. It's easy to lose them. And also you need to give it time to dry. So once you get it glued in place, let it dry for a while. When you're ready to bring it back to school, you can put it back in the envelope or stick it in one of your books and bring it back when you come back to school on Monday. Any questions, you can meet me at the Zoom meeting, or you can send me an email. Also, there are printed instructions that you were given before you left for your remote week. Also, those instructions are in Google Classroom. That's it. Thank you.